Namaste all. Welcome to the explanation session of Mukha Bhastrika. So there's a few things to know about this practice. One is the mudra that happens with the mouth, Kaki mudra. The second is the emphasis on the Manipura chakra, the solar plexus area, and that kind of bellows breath coming from there. And then the third is actually how the practice is undertaken. So you will want to have a cleared area around you. We'll be going from Vajra Asana, and eventually we will be down into Dharmikasana and then back to Supta Vajra Asana. So I'll talk you through those things as we go and some variations on them. The first thing that we want to look at with Mukha Bhastrika is something that's called Kaki Mudra. So mudra, Mukha, no, sorry, I'm distracting myself. Kaki mudra is the mudra that we make with the mouth. And we want to, I like to say, kissing a fairy. So we want to pucker the mouth up, quite small, and you want the face to be taut. So you don't want the cheeks to be billowing. You don't want this action to happen as you're doing the breath. So the inhalation comes in through the nose, and then the exhalation comes out through the mouth, and it comes out in bursts. So we're constantly bursting, blowing the breath out. So a bellows, as Bhastrika is a bellows, and we're making that happen from the diaphragm. And at the same time, we want to make sure that no air comes back into the mouth. So this tension here on the cheeks is how we do that. So we breathe in through the nose. We make this mudra. So we really want to expel all of the air. You want to even get that little at the end and really empty the lungs as much as you're able. So what Mukha Bhastrika is doing is reducing excess carbon dioxide in the body, which is kind of cleansing and preparing the nervous system for the practices to come up. So it's like it's clearing the way and allowing the energy that you're about to meet in the different practices to have room to be absorbed and integrated into the system. So we've breathed in through the nose, out in bursts. And then once we get out, we're going to inhale straight away. We're going to inhale, and that inhalation is going to bring us upright again. So the exhalation, we're actually moving forward. And as we're moving forward, bringing our head down towards the floor, we're actually squeezing the lungs against the thighs as well. So that compression between the rib cage and the thigh is also contributing to the lungs being emptied out, the expelling of the air. So when we breathe in, we're going to come up. And as we come up, you're going to lift your head. So you're not lifting up this kind of, you're not lifting up from the back. While your head's down, you're extending out, opening and stretching the throat. And this is opening up the respiratory tract. And then lifting up from the head all the way back up to sitting in Vajra Asana. So we're doing that 3 times. And this is like emulating that kind of, as the baby comes out through the birth canal, the head gets kind of tilted back and it opens the airways for that first breath of life. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're really opening the airways. We're sitting back up on the inhalation, and then straight with the next exhalation, we're going back down to the floor. So we'll do this 3 times. Once we've undertaken this practice 3 times, we'll stay down for the 3rd time with our head into Dharmikasana. And in Dharmikasana, you want to actually tuck the head, the nose in between the knees. So we're kind of rounding the spine. It's not a relaxed heading out onto the, resting on the forehead. We're kind of coming up onto this point at the top of the head, at the Bindu Nadi here. So you're resting in, rounding the spine, taking some nice, slower, fuller breaths as you can. You might find that it's slightly less air than you're able to normally breathe because of this kind of closed in position, but you'll also feel that you have the capacity for the back of the lungs to expand. So you want to take advantage of that. Then when you're ready again, you're going to extend the throat, lift the head as you come up, and then we're going to exhale back into Supta Vajra Asana. And in Supta Vajra Asana, we're sitting on our heels. So what happens is it lifts the spine, and we've got this kind of rounded openness then in the front of the lungs. So we want to take advantage of that with some nice, slow, gentle, but deeper breathing as well. When we come out of Supta Vajrasana, you're going to lift the chin firstly to protect the neck. And once the chin's lifted, you'll come up from the right elbow back up to sitting into Vajrasana. When you go down into Supta Vajrasana, you'll also lean onto the right elbow first, and that takes the strain away from the heart, then back onto the left. And once I've shown you the whole practice, then I'll show you some variations on Supta Vajrasana if that's not a position that you're quite comfortable with. So let's go through this practice now. So in Supta Vajrasana, we're coming up onto the heels. So, sorry, Vajrasana. Supta is when we go back. So we're sitting on the heels. We want to free the abdominal area, the diaphragm. We want to allow that area to have freedom of movement. So I'll show you the practice in its complete form. So we're breathing in through the nose. Kaki Mudra, solar plexus.
And then we want to stay down in Gandhasana. So bringing the head in. Hands onto the soles of the feet if you can. And we're just staying here. And then as we inhale, we extend the head out.
Lifting up, and then exhale, we're going back into Supta Vajrasana. So back onto the right elbow, back onto the left, taking the head down, and then we rest the top of the head onto the floor. And if you're comfortable here, the hands can come around onto the soles of the feet, so we keep that closed circuit in the body. And then when you're ready to come up, you can move your hands, support your elbows, lift the head, come up onto the right elbow, and all the way back up and sitting upright again into Vajrasana. And then it's nice to just sit here for a little while longer and allow everything to just settle in the body and integrate. So some variations on Supta Vajrasana, if that's not a position that's comfortable for you, is that you can start from leaning back onto your right hand, leaning back onto the left hand, lifting the chest and relaxing the head back. When you come out of this, again, lift the chin, protect the neck. Coming up, back to sitting. So that's one variation. And even if the neck is not quite prepared for that, or you feel that that's a bit of a strain on the neck, you don't have to drop it all the way back. You can just kind of lift it up, keep it slightly held, taking it back as far as you're comfortable, but just really work on lifting the chest so that you're getting that kind of openness through the rib cage. So that's one variation. The second variation is you can come back onto your elbows, but not take your head down. So I'll just shift my body slightly. So you're coming back onto the right elbow and onto the left. And then you're letting the head just relax back. Or again, if that's not comfortable for you, you can keep the head up, but you're working towards lifting the chest. It's not ideal to have the head up because you really want to open the throat, want that kind of beautiful stretch and opening through the upper chest and torso, right up into the throat. And then again, when you're ready, you'll lift the chin, the neck, come up, the left hand, right hand, and then coming back up to Vajrasana. So once you've completed the full version, working towards, Swamiji kind of recommends in some places to work towards a minute sitting in Vajrasana. Once you've finished the Mukha Bhastrika section, a minute down in Dharmakasana, a minute back in Supta Vajrasana. Swamiji also talks about the fact that we don't need to take our asana beyond 3 minutes. So 3 minutes is kind of, once we hit the 3-minute mark, we're taking it into another effect, a much greater metaphysical effect. So really a minute is probably quite sufficient for that practice in each part. And then when you come up, it's a good idea to just take the legs out and just deal with any tension, particularly in the ankles or the toes, the tops of the feet, the knees, or even the hips. So you want to just deal with everything as you go. Don't wait until it's built up right at the end of your practice. Just get used to inserting these little moments of tension release. So that's Mukha Bhastrika. As it was taught to me by Renuka when I did the residential training back in 1996. And I feel like it was a very important part of Renuka's teaching. She was very specific about it and very focused on really breaking it down and doing it properly. The other thing I did want to mention is when you're doing this is something that Renuka was very adamant about, was to make sure that the Bhastrika comes from here. So and so when you're going down, that's the action which allows the spine to stay straight. You don't want to be doing this. Because what Renuka used to say to us was that the bottom of your lungs used to get her shawl and she'd flick it like this and say, this is what's happening in the bottom of your lungs. And that doesn't happen if you're using your spine and pushing down into the abdomen. You actually need this action in the diaphragm to get in and force that area. So that's quite a few components to work with and towards, and eventually they all come together. So just take your time with it. Use it at the start of your practices. If you're doing a lot of work that's releasing lots of jatis, things that are quite bringing up deep tensions, you might at some point also want to, at the end of that, use the Mukha Bhastrika. Just think that you're releasing carbon dioxide, you're releasing the gases that have kind of been stirred up in the body that don't need to be there and need to find a way out. So that can also be a seasonal thing, like when winter, if you've got lots of kind of illness around you, you might just want to be using Mukha Bhastrika to clear the system out, to just keep everything. But also if you were using, doing a cleansing regime, or just, I know in our residential, within a week of doing Mukha Bhastrika with Renuka a lot, everybody just had mucus coming out of them. And nobody was unwell. We were just all, it was literally getting into our system and shaking things up and getting that kind of the kapha, excess kapha out of the body. So yeah, I hope you enjoy that practice. It's a really good one to insert whenever, however, and finding your way towards bringing all of those components together. So thanks for your time.